Okay, let's get right into this explainer. We're looking at one of the absolute wildest corporate true crime stories of our era. Seriously, it's a modern business tragedy where astronomical success just completely went to a founder's head. Today, we're dissecting the spectacular rise and the truly devastating fall of WeWork. It's basically a masterclass in what happens when you combine unchecked charisma with literally billions of dollars in venture capital.
Just think about the audacity of this scenario for a second. Imagine you secure billions from a legendary Japanese finance guru, only to run your entire company like a never-ending frat party. You're using investors' money to live in unrestrained luxury, you're allegedly showing up drunk to the office, and you're out there pretending everything is totally revolutionary, all while your company is bleeding cash on a scale we've barely ever seen.
And the scale of that financial destruction is genuinely historic. Adam Neumann took WeWork from a peak, sky-high valuation of $47 billion down to just $3 billion in a matter of chaotic months once the curtain was finally pulled back. I mean, that is wealth evaporation of epic proportions.
Which brings us to part one, the $47 billion illusion. You really have to notice the stark contrast here between perception and reality. Neumann actually had Wall Street and Silicon Valley convinced that WeWork was this innovative, highly scalable tech company. And that tech branding was absolutely crucial, right? Because tech companies command those massive valuations. But perfectly masked behind the slick app and the algorithms was the reality. They were a highly vulnerable real estate firm locked into risky, rigid, long-term leases with incredibly razor-thin margins. Think about it. If the market dips, you're still completely on the hook for that massive rent.
Okay, moving on to part two. From kibbutz to co-working.
So, born in Israel, Adam Neumann actually struggled with severe dyslexia that kept him from reading until he was 9 years old. He grew up living in a kibbutz, which is a socialist cooperative settlement with a shared economy. Long before the billions of dollars in private jets, this humble environment planted the seed for harmonious, shared workspaces. This communal lifestyle deeply influenced his vision for what a workplace community could actually be.
After moving to New York and honestly trying out a few failed ventures, Neumann met architect Miguel McKelvey back in 2008, and this was the perfect storm. Neumann brought this magnetic, almost Steve Jobs-esque charisma to the table, while McKelvey brought the brilliant space optimization and the architectural know-how. Together, they launched their first venture, a company called Green Desk. They eventually sold Green Desk and launched WeWork using a really simple but explosive playbook. Step 1, you rent buildings without buying them, saving a massive amount on upfront capital. Step 2, you subdivide and redesign the space to make it look incredibly aesthetically pleasing and trendy. And Step 3, you sublease those individual desks and small offices at a premium. It was an instant hit.
Part 3. The SoftBank spell.
Neumann, just radiating confidence, somehow managed to secure a meeting with Masayoshi Son, the CEO of SoftBank, and the legendary early investor in Alibaba. But here's the kicker. Neumann didn't beg for time. He audaciously granted the billionaire exactly 10 minutes of his schedule. It was this bold, borderline crazy display of power, but it completely captivated Son. And the result of that 10-minute meeting was staggering. SoftBank poured an astonishing $17 billion into WeWork between 2017 and 2019. The valuation skyrocketed. It went from $20 billion to $39 billion, peaking at nearly $47 billion. The growth felt absolutely unstoppable. Let's move to part 4, a house of cards. By 2019, armed with what felt like endless cash, they had launched residential apartments and even a private school. But when they attempted to launch an IPO and become a public company, well, by law, they had to open up their financial books to the public. And those mandatory financial disclosures revealed a truly terrifying reality. They reported a net loss of $1.25 billion in the third quarter alone. The whole tech company narrative just evaporated. Investors suddenly realized they were looking at a deeply unprofitable real estate business.
And it gets worse, because the public also discovered Neumann's egregious personal hubris. We are talking about bringing bottles of tequila into serious board meetings, buying a luxury private jet with company funds, funding an artificial wave pool for a surfer friend, and perhaps the most outrageous detail, Neumann personally trademarked the word "we" and then sold the rights to use it back to his own company for millions. I mean, it was a catastrophic breach of trust.
Which leads us into part 5, the crash and bankruptcy. With the tech illusion completely shattered and the disastrous financial reality exposed to the world, the IPO had to be canceled. The company immediately entered a desperate tailspin.
In a move that absolutely shocked the business world, SoftBank had to step in just to stop the bleeding. They forced Neumann out of the CEO role. But to get him to quietly walk away from the disaster he created, they paid him a massive $1.5 billion golden parachute. He literally destroyed the company's value and walked away a billionaire?
Without its charismatic guru to sell the vision, and plagued by a fundamentally broken business model, WeWork's valuation went into an absolute free fall. I mean, watch this. From $47 billion in mid-2019, it plummeted to $7.3 billion by December. By early 2020, it was under $3 billion, and by December 2023, the entire company was valued at less than $50 million. There were attempts to save it, for sure. In 2021, they finally managed to go public through a backdoor SPAC merger, listing the company at $9 billion. But a shiny new stock ticker cannot fix a broken business model. They continued losing $500 million every 3 months, a crisis that only accelerated as the global pandemic completely normalized working from home, leaving their super expensive office spaces completely empty. By late 2023, the financial math was just completely impossible to ignore. The company had amassed crushing debts of $18.65 billion, which massively outweighed their total assets of just $15 billion. It was fundamentally, mathematically unsustainable.
Facing total financial collapse, the new leadership had absolutely no choice. They officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy to desperately reorganize and downsize their North American operations, specifically in the US and Canada. They're now fighting to renegotiate leases and shed unprofitable locations just to stay alive.
So as we look at the rubble of this once $47 billion empire, it leaves us with one final provocative question about the future of startup investing. Has the tech world actually learned its lesson from the WeWork disaster? Or, when the next smooth-talking visionary walks into the room, will investors once again blindly open their wallets, desperately searching for the next charismatic guru? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the hard questions.